Would love to hear about kind of where your mindset came from, how you think about mindset, and things that work and don't work for you.
I think mental toughness comes in many ways, and I think for me,
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the MTNTOUGH Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Diefendorfer, and CEO, and I'm so glad that you are here. We absolutely love seeing you dive back into these episodes week after week, and it is our goal every single episode to bring you an inspiring guest that focuses on that mindset, that mental toughness, putting tools in that mental toolbox so that you can stay dangerous and live always ready. If you are brand new to the podcast, real quickly, I just want to make sure you know that as a podcast listener, you do get an exclusive code to dive into MTNTOUGH, the app, for free for 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks of physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, nutritional training. All you need to do to use that code as a podcast listener is go to MTNTOUGH.com, click Start Free Trial, and then enter the code MTNPOD. That's all one word, all caps, MTNPOD. That's going to get you going for 6 weeks for free. Shifting gears now to today's guest. On the show today, we have a very special guest being based here in Montana, Senator Tim Sheehy. Tim Sheehy was a former Navy SEAL, and now he is a senator of Montana fighting for all of us out of Washington, D.C. We get into a really interesting discussion today on what his top priorities are now that he is in D.C. We go through those priorities and how they're going to affect us as hunters, how they're going to affect us as Americans. So please stand by for my conversation with Senator Tim Sheehy. Let's start with just how everything's been going. I know it's been a big life-changing year for you, a lot going on, a lot of travel, a lot of changes, bouncing back and forth from Montana to Washington, D.C. How has everything been going?
well, it's a pivotal time for the country, and this isn't something I ever envisioned myself doing, to be quite honest. It wasn't going into politics; was never in my life plan. But as you probably remember, after the Afghanistan pullout, after that disaster, my wife served in Afghanistan. I served there multiple tours. Most of my friends did. It was really tough for me to watch a country we fought so hard for collapse, and most importantly, it was hard to watch so many people that we left behind there just get abandoned by our government. These people fought for us. I mean, they were fighting at the end of the day for our values, and we left them behind. So got involved, and I'm here to honestly get shit done. I mean, yes, I'm here as a Republican, a conservative Republican, I support the president. But at the end of the day, like, the reason I'm here is to get shit done for this country and for the people of Montana. And then I plan to go back to my life at the end of this. I don't plan to be here for 40 years making a career out of politics. I think our country has some serious challenges. I want to help solve them. So it's been an adjustment for our family, no question. I got 4 young kids, 5, 7, 9, 11. But like fighting the war and like running a business, as you know, being a business owner, you can be there are no off days when you own your own business.
That's true.
It's 24/7, 365. So this is very similar. There's no off days running the largest country in the world. There's no off days in the most powerful legislative body in the history of mankind. But it's been a good adjustment. The family's actually here with me now in DC, so we're seeing all the sites, the monuments, and all that stuff. It's good for them to get out of Montana. As much as Montana's our home and we love it, it's good for them to see some other things now and then. So
Yeah, that's excellent.
we're doing it for the country.
I love it. And there is a lot going on right now. I think that the executive orders coming through are definitely unlike anything we've seen before on just urgency, a sense of urgency. The whole administration seems to be on a path of getting things done really quickly.
That's exactly right. And I think if there's anything that, one word that you could say about this administration and this new government, I'd say all across the board so far, is speed. Speed. We've gotten more. There's a great hearing, I think, yesterday with RFK here on the Hill, where he was being criticized for what he's done as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, so far. And what they've said is, boy, he's a quack. He's doing this, he's doing that. And one of the congressmen he pointed and said, Laura, you've been advocating to get rid of food dye out of foods for 20 years. Like I've done it in 100 days. So give me some credit here. You don't have to like everything I say, but we are making progress and we're doing it quickly. And frankly, we have to. We don't have a choice. I mean, the problems that our country is facing, we're the greatest country in the history of mankind, and we have a bright future, but we also have a lot of serious structural challenges that we have to get after. And we can't keep letting these problems fester. If we don't fix our fiscal outlook, in 10 years, our kids will be inheriting 65 trillion in debt, not 37 trillion in debt.
Unreal.
And at that point, the interest expense on our debt alone will consume our entire federal budget. And that means, if you want Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, military, secure border, public health spend, any of that stuff, that's all gone. I mean, there's not room in the budget for it. Obviously our border crisis, we were shipping in millions and millions of illegals every single day, every year cumulatively to millions. We could not keep doing that. Doesn't mean we don't want immigrants to come here, but we cannot have unchecked, unfettered illegal immigration. That had to be solved quickly. Drug trafficking. I mean, there were all these issues that had to be nipped in the bud. We did not have a choice but to move quickly. November 5th was very clearly a mandate from the American people, delivered all three houses in the government, House, Senate, White House. So we've gotten a lot done quickly.
Yeah, and it's a lot of tough love that might hurt in the short term, but is really good for all Americans in the long term, as long as we can keep our eye focused on that there might be some temporary pain, but like all good things, there's temporary pain for the better solution on the long haul.
That's exactly right. I mean, for most people, probably not you and I, it feels better to sit on the couch and watch TV and eat junk food than it does to go out and crush yourself in a circuit workout and really your body's devastated into that workout. But that's what it takes to have true freedom, which is a strong body and mind, a good physical state in which you can do whatever you want. You can hike, you can climb, you can run, you can swim, ski, whatever it is you want to do. The pain up front and the discipline it requires to endure through that pain gives you more freedom on the back end because you have a fit, healthy body that's strong and capable. And as you correctly just pointed out, we've been feeding the American people a lot of junk food, literally and figuratively, for a long time, from printing money to deficit spending to literally making it legal to eat poison and put it into your body. And now it's time to say, listen, we got to change a lot of these things for the long-term health of our people and for our country.
For sure. Yeah, all decisions have consequences. They're either positive or negative, but there's a consequence either way. Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food, and they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code MOUNTAINTOUGH, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com. With what you have going on right now, I know it is a lot, and it's a plethora of items that you're working on. What would you say are kind of the top 3 to 5 that you're really focused on right now?
No, that's a good question. That's a good way to put it because, it was going back to my military days. I was an officer in the military. So, in combat as an officer, you're the ground force commander. You're in charge. And one of the best leadership lessons I got as a young officer, young cadet, midshipman going through training was prioritize and execute. And at the Naval Academy, which actually isn't too far from here, I went to the academy, and now I'm on the board of visitors overseeing the academy. Especially your first year, they intentionally put way more work on your plate than you can handle. And they do that on purpose because as a leader, especially in the military, especially in a combat situation, you're almost always going to have more tasks to do than you have time to do them in.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the most important job of any leader, whether it's the CEO, whether it's a sergeant in the Army, platoon leader in the Marine Corps, whether it's a senator or governor or the president, is looking at a myriad of problems, which sometimes may be disorganized and chaotic, a basket of random ass problems. And out of that, being able to quickly distill, prioritize, and then execute. There's a basket full of 100 things, and you've got time to do 3 of them. What are the 3 most important ththings you can do to have the greatest impact for your objectives on the back end? So to your point, it's a very salient question. As senator here, there's only 100 of us, which spread across the whole country is not that many. Everyone's coming to you saying, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. Here, I need you to sign on this bill, draft this bill, join this caucus, do this. And you can very quickly be lost in the sauce by trying to do everything. And by trying to do everything, as you well know, you do nothing.
Yep.
You do nothing well.
Yep.
Especially. So for me, the key has been laser focus. I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I'm trying to get a handful of things done that are important to me and that are important to Montana. Number one, wildfire. As you know, I was a wildland firefighter, and that's an issue that in Montana is existential to us. Anyone in the western states is existential to, and for the most Americans, it hasn't been an issue that they ever really thought about, or in many cases even knew exist. You talk to people on the East Coast, they're like, wildfire? What? Like, I don't even know what that is.
Yep.
Obviously, after LA, the whole country was like, holy shit, like our biggest city was just burning to the ground and we couldn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And for many of us in the West, we've seen that for years. Paradise Fire, Lahaina in Hawaii burned down a couple of years ago. Last year, the Smokehouse Creek fire in Texas, 1.5 million acres. These massive fires have been happening for a long time. And frankly, the American people deserve better for a more coordinated, effective response from their government. And really, I mean, that's America first in a nutshell, is we should be able to protect our people. The highest role of the government, period, is the safety of its people. That's the number one thing we should be able to do as governments, protect our people from getting burned alive, killed by terrorists, invaded by foreign governments. That's the role of our government. So after LA, it became very clear, especially to everyone on this Hill, wildfire was an issue that we are unable to effectively address, and I'm uniquely positioned, given my background, to do that. So right away, my first week in office, that fire is happening. I basically stood up in front of the whole Senate a couple of times and said, hey guys, I know a lot about this. Here are issues we're facing. Bureaucratic sclerosis. We have a lot of agencies with no clear line of responsibility. We have policies that are contradictory to each other all over our Western states that preclude effective wildland management, forest management, public lands management. We need to clear those up. Our forests have been mismanaged for decades. The environmental groups have been suing to stop any common sense logging and forest treatment project. We need to open those back up. We need clear chain of command on these fire incidents, and we need to resource, most importantly, our firefighters and first responders. Our wildland firefighters are treated like seasonal ski resort employees. They get paid by the hour, no health benefits, no life insurance benefits. It's really ridiculous. We expect these kids to run into the line of fire, literally the line of fire, put themselves at great personal risk, and we don't even give them health coverage. It's ridiculous. So we need to treat those brave first responders like the first responders they are, give them the tools and equipment that they need. So wildfire has been my number one priority. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. We're involved in about 14 different bipartisan bills that will fundamentally change the structure of how we deal with this. One's already passed through the Senate, one's through committee, a couple other on their way. And then we're also working with administration. We've made a number of important changes already through secretarial orders and executive orders, working alongside the administration to do some common sense policy changes around wildfire. That should be important to every Montanan. It's not just your house might burn down, but what's probably more daily of concern is homeowners insurance. We're seeing it all across Western states. People's insurance being pulled, or their homeowners insurance premiums have gone up 900, 1,500%. And now that can be more than your mortgage payment. So addressing the wildfire concerns will lower the cost of housing. Number two is defense acquisition reform. We're seeing it time and again all over the world. We're entering a dangerous geopolitical era. We just are. I don't want to go to war. I hope we don't have to go to war, but we have to be prepared to go to war. And our military, as great as our men and women in uniform are, we are not able to buy things quickly or effectively anymore. We just aren't. I mean, we almost depleted our entire strategic munitions stockpile, supplying relatively small conflicts in Ukraine and Israel. And if we go to war with China, it'll be exponentially larger. So fixing how our military buys things so that it's cheaper and more effective, and our warfighters have what they need on the back end. So those are the two top issues I'm working on. A handful of other things, of course, I'm involved in and helping out with, but I'm really trying to prioritize and focus on those two issues and make serious progress. Because not only do I have personal experience in those, but I think that they're priorities for the country and for the people of Montana.
Yeah, for sure. The wildfire one is near and dear to every Montanan because we see it year after year, and so many of our close friends are out there fighting those fires. It's a major, major issue.
Exactly.
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough Podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. with the defense side, with the chance that different global theater conflicts could kick off at any time. I mean, we have Ukraine, we have the stuff around Taiwan, we have the Middle East, we have Israel, we have China, Russia. That is a big comprehensive problem, especially with the potential of us being spread so thin so fast that one must just be a massive one to wrap your mind around.
I mean, they really all are. And when you think about, you know, you hear this term near peer thrown around a lot. Oh, we're worried about a near peer conflict. We got to prepare for near peer conflict. And frankly, that just drives me nuts. Like, it's not near peer, it's peer. I mean, look at what Russia can do right now as far as defense industrial base. I'm not saying Russia's military is stronger, more capable than ours, because I truly don't think that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have certain advantages. And one of their advantages is they make artillery shells, for example, about 10 times faster than we do for about 10% the cost. And if you're going to fight a war of attrition, which is how the war in Ukraine has been billed to the American people, we're just going to keep supplying Ukraine so they can deplete Russia's arms, and we're hurting Russia. Well, we're actually not. I mean, a war of attrition is based upon the simple axiom that you can make more things than the other guy. It's just simple math. We largely won World War II, as brave and amazing as our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines were. The reality is we won World War II, not because of the bravery of our soldiers or the genius of our generals, but because we could make things faster and better than the Germans and the Japanese could.
Manufacturing.
Yeah, we'd sink one Japanese ship, they couldn't replace it. They'd sink one of our ships, we'd replace it with 3 ships. The German tanks are better than ours. One German tank would kill 2 American tanks, but then we'd kill one of their tanks, and they couldn't replace it. They'd kill 2 of our tanks, 10 more would show up. It was that simple. Quantity has a quality all its own.
Yeah.
And we've lost that ability. As a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting. You look at our defense industrial acquisition paradigm, it actually looks very, very similar to the Axis powers, Japanese and Germany's defense acquisition processes during World War II, which is very centralized. We make exquisite equipment that's highly engineered, in some cases overly engineered, years of development, very centralized acquisition process with a very tiny number of companies and a lot of bureaucracy overseeing every single step. So we make these exquisite pieces of technology that, frankly, by the time they get in the field, sometimes are not even relevant anymore and are built for the last war. And moreover, they're so expensive to create that to replace them is not economical. So anyways, we have to be ready for a peer conflict, not near peer, a peer conflict. And that means we have to reorient our defense industry around free market principles, about competition, for all these different weapon systems, and we have to put the warfighter first, not beltway interests, not DC, engineers and programmatic bureaucrats. We have to put the warfighter first to make sure we're ready to build things that they need on the battlefield.
I love it. Well, I know that we don't have a tremendous amount of time today, and I want to shift gears in this final 15 minutes of our conversation and really get into your mindset, because mindset and mental toughness, mental health, mental fitness is really at the heart of the Mountain Tough show. And all the guests from all the different backgrounds that we bring on to the Mountain Tough show, they're inspiring guests from a lot of different fields. But each and every one of them, we try to get an understanding of their mindset, because that is something that practically we can all apply to our lives. And yours has been interesting with your background as a Navy SEAL and now as a senator, but also in the middle of that, you were a business owner and an entrepreneur, and all of those require an insane amount of mental toughness, a different gear, a different way of thinking about life, so that you can plow through adversity, because that adversity is definitely going to hit you as a Navy SEAL training in combat, but then different kinds of adversity are going to hit you really hard as an entrepreneur, and they might look different, but they feel the same in a lot of different ways. And then now you're going to face an insane amount of adversity as a senator. So would love to hear about kind of where your mindset came from, how you think about mindset and things that work and don't work for you.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's going to be kind of the asymmetric directions of mental toughness. There are people who are very tough in some areas mentally, and yet they're not ready for that vector from a different direction. And I think the pinnacle of mental toughness is really being able to handle that vector from any direction. I mean, think about a piece of lumber. A piece of lumber to try to, it's if you turn a 2x4 vertically, it can hold a lot of weight. As soon as you turn it horizontally, it snaps.
Hmm.
Like it's the same piece of wood. Nothing's changed, but simply the direction of force on that piece of lumber has a fundamental difference in whether it can handle the stress or not. And I think as a person too, we all have our points of weakness of what can we take, what can we not take. And I think, my first time ever going through kind of a mental toughness exercise that I really felt it was I was 19. I was going through Ranger training, and
Hmm.
before I was a SEAL, I went through Army Ranger School and Ranger training, and that's a different type of suck than Navy SEAL training. And I didn't go through Green Beret training or anything like that, but each kind of soft organization has a different pipeline of training, and each one tests you in a different way, and they
Yeah.
do so because each group has a different mission, really, and different purpose. So if everyone went through the same training, you'd have a group of very similar guys. But what you want groups that have different missions, therefore they have different focuses. But anyways, going through that first time, it was the first time I'd kind of been like really tested physically, which as you well know, a physical test really is a mental test.
Yeah.
It's through your body, but that's just the conduit. The pain is being created to see if your mental metal can handle it.
I've used a ton of Bluetooth speakers over the years, and they all have never quite had enough output for me to really have an awesome home gym workout on a Bluetooth speaker. But the Turtle Box is in a whole new ball game. They have leveled up this product, so the bass and the output you get out of a Turtle Box is quite amazing. It's funny how we started using them at the lab. We had an awesome sound system at our new lab here in Bozeman. We were using it so much, we actually blew our brand new system out. We went right to the Turtle Boxes. And so we paired two together in the lab. And that was a lot of output for the Mountain Tough team and all of our testing to have phenomenal sound in our gym for a great workout with great music. We know there's a ton of Mountain Toughers training in their basements, in their garages, and I know a lot of you are looking for great sound to play some music in the background to your MGDs. This is a great product for you to check out. Turtle Box is at a whole new level. The bass and the volume you can get out of that box. It's a sweet product. You guys can check them out at turtleboxaudio.com. Use promo code TOUGH for a free Turtlebox hat with the purchase of a Gen 2 speaker. The hat must be added to your cart before entering the promo code TOUGH, TOUGH.
I was working out with the MSU ROTC group a few weeks ago when I was home for a couple days. And at the end of the workout, they're all going to be officers in the military, so they're going to be leaders. And I said, hey, you're all going into the military soon. And I said, we just did a workout together. That was fun. And I said, what's the one test? You're all about to graduate college. What's the one test in life where you're given the questions ahead of time and you're given the answers ahead of time and you're giving unlimited time to prepare? I said, what test is that? And they all kind of looked at me like, I've never taken a test like that. I said, yeah, it's your physical fitness test in the military.
Yeah,
They
you
tell
know
you
what's
what
coming.
question they're going to ask, and then they're going to give you the answers. Here's how many you need to do. Imagine if you had a math test, and they said for 2 years ahead of time, they said, here's the questions we're going to ask in your math test. Here are the answers to the questions we're going to ask in your math test. And oh, by the way, you can bring the answers with you into the test.
Yeah.
And what excuse would you have not to get every single question right? And that's what I tell
Hmm.
them about the PFT is, guys, it's not about how in shape you are. It's a character test because there's no excuse for you not to show up to your unit as a leader. And listen, you don't have to be an Olympian. You don't have to be number one and everything, but you better damn well be in those top few people because how are you going to lead from the front in your unit if you can't be one of the most in shape people in your unit?
Yeah, something that you
regardless of what it
knew.
is. So I think mental toughness comes in many ways, and I think for me, I've had the mental toughness challenge of going through tough military training, Ranger training, Navy SEAL training, the mental toughness of being a leader on the battlefield in combat, seeing your men, get wounded, lose limbs, have to make those decisions under fire, having to prioritize and execute in a combat environment. Coming home from war, which is a different type of mental stress. You're dealing with, these issues where you go from a combat environment to a peacetime environment. Sometimes that's the hardest part is coming home from that. You've trained so much to be ready for combat, but they don't really train you to come home. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's the hardest part is coming home. That's a whole new type of mental stress and hardship you got to push yourself through. And you said starting a business, most people don't think of mental toughness starting a business, but that's really what it is because you start that company and in your mind, it's an up and to the right curve. And the
Mm,
reality is, every single day it's a different curveball. How many nights you
yeah.
go to bed, man, I can't make payroll tomorrow, or where am I going to find my next rent payment? How am I going to finance this growth? I just committed to a new building I can't pay for, whatever it is. I mean, those
Hmm.
stresses as an entrepreneur are totally different than they were before. And then, of course, running a campaign like I did, where the number one race in the country for our body. I mean, getting absolutely destroyed. We were the most expensive political race in American history on a per
Crazy.
capita basis. And as you know, the vast majority of that was spent by the other side, just assaulting my business, trying to put our company out of business, going after my family, our friends, our business partners, destroying, trying to just tear apart your life and smear you and turn you into a terrible person. Imagine almost $250 million being spent on just plastering your face everywhere and making you look like a bad person. So,
Personal
every
attacks.
day it would be like, man, like I fought for this country, I bled for this country, I fought for Republicans and Democrats. It's not like when I fought a war and fighting wildfire. I don't look
Hmm.
fun to be playing and decide I'm only protecting Republican houses or Democrat houses. I fought for these people who are now trying to destroy me. So, it's tough. So to your point though, you've got to figure out what that, first of all, you've got to be comfortable with who you are. You've got to self-actualize. And I think that the way to be the most mentally tough ever is the self-actualization of realizing that I know who I am. I know what I believe in. I know what my faith tells me.
Hmm.
Faith and whatever your faith is, whatever your religion is, or maybe you're not religious, but for me, I am. It's like my faith in God, my faith in my family, my wife, my kids. I know that whatever happens on the battlefield, in training, in my business, or in politics, I will love my wife, she'll love me. I love my four kids, and I can sleep well knowing that every decision I made with the betterment of their lives and in accordance with my faith and my values. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean everyone has to agree with me. It doesn't mean I'm going to make the right decision every time, but I know absolutely, absolutely that every decision I've made was made for the betterment of my community, my family, and my country.
Hmm.
I think having that kind of keel, that North Star helps because it keeps everything in perspective. And when you try to chase short-term gratification, I think that's where you start getting distracted. You start trying to do other things. You start losing your focus on what that end goal is. And I liken it to dive bombers. There was a painting I'd look at. I'm actually getting it painted. It was a Google image that I'd look at
Yeah.
during, especially the campaign when I was every day getting, just hit from every direction, accused of all these random things every single day. And I'd look at that painting, and it was a dive bomber bombing onto a Japanese aircraft carrier in World War II. And that pilot has got the aircraft carrier in his crosshairs, and he's got one bomb to drop. And they're shooting at him because they see his planes coming to the carrier, and they're shooting everything they have at that plane, trying to get him before he drops that one bomb to sink that carrier. And that pilot's got one job to do, which is don't get distracted, do not let all the flak knock you off target. The reason they're shooting at you is because you're on target and you're coming and they see you and they're
Yeah.
trying to knock you off. So the one thing you got to do is hold that target, don't flinch, and get the job done.
Yeah. You can't let those outside distractions come in. I love that answer so much because I do think the more folks that I've heard from and the more that us as an organization have dove into the topic of mental toughness, it is more and more obvious to me that it is really connected to self mastery, and it's a mastery of mind, body, spirit. And once the three of those are in alignment, then you can make decisions that are the best decision regardless of the outcome. So you are able to self-sacrifice for the good of your family or the good of your community or the good of your country, even knowing that you might die in that journey, but that mindset is at peace with that because of that self-mastery. And I think that is really what you were explaining there. And I think that is spot on from what I've been learning from a lot of different backgrounds. And so I really appreciate that answer.
Well, and if you've ever seen the show Band of Brothers, I think it was one of the best things ever put on a screen. There was a Captain Spears at one point, made a very powerful comment that I think is true, having been in close combat. It's, you almost have to accept on the battlefield that you're already dead in a way. Like, my life is already been laid upon the altar for my unit, for my men, for my team, for my country. And when you almost accept the fact that that is a potential outcome, and you're not so afraid of having it happen, you can behave in the heat of battle in a way that is for the absolute best benefit of your unit and your men. And it allows you to make decisions far more clear. You're not making decisions out of fear or self-preservation. You're making decisions out of a very clairvoyant position of what can I do to win this battle right now? What can I do to not just kill the enemy, but bring my men home?
Yeah.
And I think it lets you transcend and opens up your aperture. And just like it's not a perfect comparison, but it is a comparison. When you're doing one of your workouts, when you're in one of those circuits where you're at the 70% mark is always the worst because you're over halfway, but you're not close enough to the finish where you're almost, when that 90%, I just got to push another 10%. It's in that last third.
Yeah.
Man, I am smoked. I'm almost done, but I still got a long way to go, and I'm hurting right now. And that's kind of when you embrace the suck. And I think that's an important aspect too, is in any of these periods of time, whether it's workout, military training, combat, entrepreneurism, politics, there's a time when everything sucks so bad and it sucks. And that's that low point. That's that point when people throw in the towel. And if maybe either they quit outright or maybe they don't quit, but they flinch and they lose focus at that last moment. That dive bomber pilot, instead of staying on target, he dodges and flinches, and now he's off target, and the whole mission was for naught. You've got to that's the point where the wheat's separated from the chaff. When the true leaders stay focused and don't flinch when it's the most painful, when it's the hardest, when you feel the most alone, you just stay focused and you drive all the way to the end. And it's that low point where you really figure out who's there to stay.
For sure. And it's coming, those low points are coming for us all.
Exactly.
Well, Senator Sheehy, I appreciate your time. I know you have to run, but thank you so much for what you're doing for the country, what you're doing for Montana, and really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you having me out. Let's do it again sometime. And thanks for what you're doing out there, Mountain Tough. It's awesome to see what you guys are doing. You got my full support if I can ever help you at all. It's a great message you guys are spreading. It's a great, frankly, service you're providing to the community. And it's great to see your success. So keep it up.
Thank you. What a great conversation with Senator Sheehy. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I did. Remember, every single Mountain Tough episode, we are looking for that golden nugget. What can we take away and apply to our lives practically so that it sticks? What can we apply today, tomorrow, this week, so that that mental toughness is building, that mindset is changing? The big one for me with Tim, of course, he had a lot to cover there, but he talked about the amount of things hitting his desk as a senator, the amount of priorities, the amount of questions, the amount of requests, and how overwhelming and daunting that is. But he knew from his training and from his life experience that he had to focus on what he can control and not worry about the uncontrollables. And he decided he's just going to focus on key priorities and make sure that he's getting those key priorities done and then eliminating a lot of the other distractions. Such a good example because that's happening to all of us in all of our lives. We're at work, at home. We're just getting hammered by multiple requests, but we have to focus on those priorities and we have to focus on that success map. So really good advice from Tim. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment on this video. We love hearing from you guys, and the comments do help with the algorithm. So please leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, you can watch and listen to the Mountain Tough Show as a Mountain Tough Plus subscriber on the app. Love you guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode.